That in a lot of things.
I brought this along because I got this at Christmas 1931. And this is, I was born 10 days before Christmas 1918. So this is my 69th Christmas. And I don't remember a whole lot of Christmases, but I remember Christmas 1931 because I got that book, Kidnapped in the Jungle. I remember reading it all day long.
I remember, the thing I remember about Christmas is food, strange food. I remember when we were kids, in Concord, we'd get up and have our Christmas morning breakfast was salt mackerel. You ever have that? You know what that is?
No.
Yeah, we had that. It was traditional Christmas breakfast. See, back in the interior parts of North Carolina, in the old days, they couldn't get fresh fish, so all the fish had to be cured. Some of it's cured over here in the fireplace. Boy, once you got jumping off the sweater, maybe you better burn the whole thing. But anyway, we'd go around, go down to the grandparents, and they'd have the salt mackerel came right out of the hogshead. And the deal was you had to soak these fish for about 24 hours and change the water, or if you bit into this salted fish, you'd never get your mouth open for it. So the typical menu was salted fish, salt mackerel, and then grapefruit, you know, and a little blackberry jam on toast. Doesn't that sound appetizing?
That does, but that must have been an Albemarle tradition.
I was in Concord.
I never heard of that.
Where were you born?
I was in High Point. We never had salt mackerel on Christmas.
You couldn't afford it.
Probably couldn't afford it. That's probably true. What do people do at Christmas that don't have kids? What do you do?
Worked last year, right?
Yeah, I got
Lee and I were talking about that. I asked Lee if this is the way he dresses on Christmas, and he says certainly, because it's always on the air. What you do on Christmas in Chicago?
I think Christmas in the North is different than Christmas in the South.
It's about everything.
First of all, the weather's different. It's usually colder. There's almost every Christmas we had, snow on the ground. So you could really have a lot of fun all the way up to Christmas. Snowmen and ice castles and whatever. It just seemed to be a lot more festive. All the different neighborhoods, and in Chicago, it's a highly ethnic community where you have one neighborhood that's almost all Polish, one neighborhood that's all Italian, one neighborhood that's all German.
One neighborhood is all weathermen.
That's right. But each neighborhood decorates their area in different ways according to old customs that they have. And it really, a lot of people would spend time getting in cars and just driving to all the different neighborhoods to look at all the different decorations and things like that. And I don't think people decorate as much now as they did when I was a kid. At least I don't see it.
Yeah, but you look at the fronts of some people's houses. I mean, the lights and the spotlights and wreaths. It looks like some decorator was hired to come and make a showplace.
You're not talking about yours. Kim, did you know about Santa Claus out in southwestern Virginia on that grapevine you lived in out there, Big Stone Gap?
We sure did. Well, in fact, Becky and I were talking earlier about the snow. I remember, that's the big thing I remember about Christmas.
Oh, y'all had snow for Christmas, huh?
No, lots of it.
Well, Kim's from Virginia, I'm from Maryland, and we had so much snow as kids. It seems like feet and feet of snow, and we always got out of school.
Went sleigh riding.
Yeah, we built these big igloos. My brother and I would go in the backyard and build tunnels and huge igloos, just like the Eskimos. And where's all that snow, Randy? In Maryland.
A lot of people have said, a lot of the people that have lived here for a long time have told me that even here, Wilkes County, Forsyth County, all around, that when they were children and when they were younger, that they can remember lots of Christmases where snow would fall and would be on the ground for weeks and weeks at a time. And now you just don't see that.
Now it's in a song.
We won't do a weather special. We won't explain all those things.
But May, you must have been awful cold crawling through those snowy tunnels in your bikini.
It was a fur bikini.
Wow. Were there a lot of complaints in the neighborhood?
I'm glad to hear that. As a matter of fact, one of the best Christmases I remember took me years to figure out because in the early 60s, everybody was into this 8mm film, and every family had one. You know, when you'd have a family gathering and you'd all sit down at the table, Dad would come in with a light bar, and then everybody would be blind for the rest of the meal because you couldn't see with this bright light in the room.
And you'd all just gotten out of bed.
Right.
Great.
Everybody's walking down the hall and what is this with the bright light? And my parents got Santa Claus on film. And I have yet to this day to figure out how they did that, because you know, with that bright light and whatever, if I was Santa Claus, I would not have come to the door. But we had this 8mm film, Santa Claus slipping in and putting all the presents under the tree and assembling things and waving at the camera and the whole bit. Well, of course, all the children in the family were asleep. We learned about the film 3 or 4 weeks later when it came back from Eckers, right? That film was put on the machine and played. My dad didn't say anything, he just rolled the film, and all 4 of us, everybody was just looking straight ahead going, how did you do that? How did you get Santa Claus on film? Probably the most memorable Christmas that I can think of. But you know, talking about your snow, AK, I posed that to a weatherman once and said, how come it doesn't snow as much as it used to?
Yeah.
And he said, you're taller now. It still snows as much. Little known fact.
So Wednesday snow was what, maybe 2 inches?
You know what I think is interesting? In my family, we always open presents on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Santa Claus comes at night on Christmas Eve. You open your presents on Christmas morning, but there are people who open their gifts on Christmas Eve. We do.
What's wrong with that?
How does that make sense? Because Santa Claus comes.
But we do, what we do is we open all of the presents that you're giving to someone in the family. Now, Santa Claus presents don't get open, don't get
Till the
seen
next
until the
day.
next
Because Santa has to bring.
He's got to bring them. But we have every Christmas Eve, we have a family Christmas party, and everybody who's brought gifts for anyone else, we always open them on Christmas Eve.
So you got to have those cleared out of the way so that they can put the real stuff in.
Real stuff.
Yeah, you want the only cluttered mess up there. Mama, what did you, I don't even know where you're from. What did you do?
Well, you know, I try to keep it a secret here.
Let's go get out of it, Charlie.
Just like you, Charlie, though, I remember the Christmas of 1947. 10 years before I was born, but I remember it well. It was like, I think the most memorable one I had, I guess I was 7 years old, and my brother was 5, and we both had chicken pox on Christmas Eve. We always shared
Oh, no.
So we stayed home, and the family goes to church on Christmas. We always opened our presents on Christmas Eve after everyone got home from church. And so my parents, my family, they all, you know, my 4 other brothers and sisters went to church. My grandma was with us. She was supposed to watch us, so like I guess we didn't get deathly sick or something while they were gone. So Granny goes upstairs. So my brother and I, we were party animals back then. We decided, hey, let's, you know, Granny's upstairs, the family's at church, let's go open our gifts. So we go and we open our gifts. And, you know, we're playing around with our scooters. I ended up breaking mine before my parents got
Before Christmas?
Well, we always open them on Christmas, and we were just kind of beating it by about 2 hours. Yeah, we were beating the rest of the family.
I hope you got in trouble.
No! They came back, and it's amazing the sympathy you get when you got pockmarks on your face. They didn't say a darn thing. Yeah, of course, I was crying because I had broken my scooter.
But you know, it was such a tradition to go out and decorate the homes and open the windows and put the trees in them and everything, and people did things in their yards, and that was just one of the things I don't get. That was one of the things the energy crisis took away. I think it's come back, thanks to people like Randy Jackson, who put these big reindeer and sleighs on top of the big Christmas tree up there. It's beautiful, you know? Well, the last time I was out there, the line of cars was 3 miles.
Now we can just get him and take him down in July. I'll leave him up, honey. It's okay.
David was out there selling Pepsi and Coke and all those great things.
Of course, hard as that stuff is to put up, really, I'm surprised it doesn't stay up all year. But that's some of the most fun. My father always used to put Christmas lights on our house. We'd always do it at night when it was dark, and he would always pick the coldest possible night so the bulbs felt warm. And my sister and I would have to go outside. Of course, he thought that we really enjoyed this, and we never really told him that we thought it was pretty silly. But we'd go out, family. And I remember going out one year. We didn't have snow yet, but it was terribly cold, and I had tennis shoes on that had a hole in them. And I came in and I thought my feet were on fire, you know, they were so cold and how it burns kind of. And then my mother would always come to the rescue with big steaming cups of hot chocolate, and that was perhaps the most fun. But my father would, you know, always drop the little tack that would go into the lights, or we'd have to get down and move the ladder, and this whole process of these lights seemed to take forever. But
and you'll have to answer to your daddy tomorrow morning for what you have said about his aptitude tonight and the fact that he couldn't afford his shoes with his own.
No, if he may take
That my soul's at a pride.
That's right.
Merry Christmas. Maybe you ought to collect a loot earlier. You better hope you got something out of the tree.
Where are you going, Charlie? Go do some Christmas shopping, Lee. Merry Christmas, Charlie, it's Christmas Eve. But he does it every year at Christmas Eve.
Why is an unusual tree? Anybody got something that's out of the ordinary?
We used to flock our trees.
What?
They called it flocking the tree in Big Stone Gap, where you spray white stuff all over. Had snow.
See, you lied about the snow a while ago, didn't you?
No, we had snow, but I can remember my mother, she had this, it was like a gun type of thing, and you would spray the tree. You put little tablets of food coloring, sometimes it would be different colors, and we'd spray the tree, and it would look like snow had just fallen on it. We used to do that year after.
Was that a live tree?
Mm-hmm. You know, we used to...
After you spray that stuff.
We used to always, when I was little, we used to always have a real tree. And when I was a teenager, Titus the cat decided to climb the tree one year and sharpen her claws. The whole thing fell over. Ever since then, we have an artificial tree.
Well, my tree is a children's tree because it's got ornaments that the kids either made at school or at home. Or my sister every year gives them an ornament from her for that year. So my tree is just full of little children things.
We used to sketch them.
Okay, and one of the things I was going to say, one of the things I like about Christmas, you were talking about trees and decorating now, is every year my wife Susan always tries to do something different. So that as you look at the tree, you know, each year it has a different look to it. She has all these decorations and what have you, and just different themes.
Dude, this is the second year he's been married.
And there was a Christmas when we were dating, so that's 3 years. 3 years.
Okay, excuse me. Fred, I'm just looking out for your credibility.
Well, thank you. But for 3 years, each year, the tree has been entirely different because she's very creative.
I think that's great. I think it's a fine thing.
You put the same decorations up every year, though. Doesn't that get old?
Yeah, they get old.
Well, when you pay all that money for it, you have to use, for a few years, you have to use the same one.
Well, yeah, but you rotate it a little bit. Use the same lights, perhaps.
But you got kids to buy, to pay Santa Claus and all that, you use the same decorations every year.
are you going to tell the folks in the audience where to write to get those Bill Copold ornaments?
That's right. We're going to start. Address your cards and letters to Susan Cope. P.O. Box TV2, Greensburg, and see 2042. Make your checks payable to me.
Bill was talking a few minutes ago about Christmases in the service, being away from home. And when I was in California, that was the first and only, fortunately, Christmas I spent away from home, far away from home. And that's a long way. It's one of the Christmases I'll never forget. Because you remember the song, It Never Rains in Southern California?
You're right.
Why? Because I had to walk around a white building on Christmas Day, you know, with my little helmet liner and out there all by myself, and it started raining, and I thought, I've got to be the saddest person in the world on this day. But when I had a cousin who was in Vietnam in '68, and he was there for Christmas. And talk about putting together packages to send to people who were away from home, especially like in the service. Putting up, you know, socks or little things, you know, those real personal items that you have to send in a situation like that. I think that particular gift, that's when the idea of gifts for Christmas really hit home. And when you see all your stuff under the tree and you're home with your family, and you think about a couple pairs of socks going overseas, it puts a lump in your throat.
Well, you know,
thinking about that.
we take so much for granted. We talk about hobby horses and what have you. And I remember in '65 when I was in Vietnam, my mother had put together a large care package, and it was just that. It was socks and a lot of things that we use every day, but you don't really think about. Remember, part of the time I was there, we lived in a tent, and part of the time was in what they called a hooch, which was a little building.
And so for Christmas, someone was sent a small artificial tree, put that up on top of a locker, and then with shaving cream.
Blocked it.
But then also wrote Merry Christmas at the side of one wall and Happy New Year on the other, and whatever you could get for coloring, and, you know, made the best of it.
That's nice.
Well, the Christmas, I think I've been married about a year when I had to go in service back during the Korean War years. And we were overseas, and you could make an appointment to call home. And so you wake up on Christmas morning, and the appointment was for 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon. And then you call in, you know, to talk, and you're already choking, right?
Yeah.
And you hear this little faint voice, and you just want to spend your 3 minutes and $7.50 crying instead of talking. You know, it's really a strange thing. I don't know whether I'd do it again or not, but it's certainly, those kinds of experiences have a positive side to them because they turn it all around. They, you know, they go beyond the tinsel and glitter and the glamour of the tearing of the paper and the looking at the presents and everything, and make you realize it's a time when people come together. And there are a lot of people sitting around tonight who've got memories, and I think it's important to say, celebrate those memories, and you know, don't feel sad about it. Don't dwell on the, hey, those were great times, and go open a Coke, and here's to the good days, and Merry Christmas, everybody, you know.
From all of us here at Channel 2, happy holidays. And may the spirit of Christmas be with you now and always. Good night.
Toys for Project Head Start were provided by Hasbro and Play School. Santa Watch is being brought to you by Rice Marco Hyundai. The North American Air Defense Command has now confirmed that the unidentified flying objects near the North Pole are Santa Claus and his reindeer. This picture taken by a satellite in space shows Claus over Canada. Radar has detected brief stops in the sparsely populated area. Repeating, authorities have confirmed that Santa Claus is on his way, and they remind all children that this is a night to go to bed early. Stay tuned to Santa Watch.